All right, guys, welcome back into the second episode of the Cash It podcast. Hopefully you guys liked the first one. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Today, recording on Thursday, we're going into the weekend with NFL playoffs. Obviously, we're going to break down the NBA Friday slate, kind of provide a little bit of a recap. John, how you doing today?
Doing okay, keeping my eye on the computer. So I got two computers in front of me. So if I'm looking away from the screen, we're actually filming this at 6 p.m. Thursday night. So I'm definitely looking out for other things, but I'm going to try and give as much attention to you guys and Ben as possible.
Yep, and as you guys know, betting is a 24/7 business. It's all about information, and the better you get, the faster you get it, the better you can apply it. Speaking of information, we can kind of dive in here. We'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into John's background, just to give you guys a better understanding of who he is and the amount of information he's collected over the 40 years of working in the business. So John, taking it way back, I believe, if you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, but you told me the only real job you ever really worked outside of betting was with a grocery store you were stocking back when you were 13, 14. And then you started working with your father, correct?
Pretty much so. So I was a little bit of a bad kid. Mom told me, go live with your father, get out of the house. They were separated. At 14, my father says, hey, get a job. And I was, I remember the summertime, I believe it was the blackout that we had in New York, maybe 77. Either way, stocking beers and milk and stuff in the refrigerator. I used to have to wear my winter jacket to walk to the place. I naturally needed to have that on while I worked in the freezer. After 2 weeks of that, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? So as 15 years old, I was already running parlay tickets. One of my jobs, worked for my father back in the day. Like, he was an old school bookmaker. And I'm not talking about your neighborhood candy store bookmaker. Talking my dad was on a high level, big time. So one of my jobs, there's no computers back then. This is late 70s now. So they used to write in what was called dupes. So you would write a ticket, and there would be two halves of the ticket. So you would check the figures. So one of my jobs was checking the figures to make sure the figures were right. So I was running parlay tickets, checking dupes, and then on weekends, I would go in and answer phones. Again, you guys don't know about that. You punch in a bet on a computer. Back in my day, actually have to answer the phone, give them a line, write the bet. That's how we did it. This has been going on since I'm a kid. The education that I get, this is why I tell you guys, I'm 60 years old right now. I'm in this business over 40 years, and I'm talking about at the highest levels. Back in the day, when I would go with my old man, we would all be on the phone with the legends of the business, the guys that ran the business back in those days. And I'm talking from Billy Walters to the computers who ran the college sports. We used to call them the kosher kids. They ran baseball. The poker players. I mean, the legends of the business. That's why I really think...
To kind of spin off that a little bit, that's a little bit different than nowadays, right? Legends of the business today, a lot of them might be discreet, kind of like you said, behind computers, but back in the day, it was dealing with them one-on-one.
Yeah, look, we're talking about gambling was legal in Nevada if you lived in Nevada. Yep. It wasn't legal anywhere else. It wasn't until years later on that people started going offshore. I've been in a few offshore spots, Curacao, but this would happen later on. We used to use call forwarding back in the day. Again, this is a million years ago. We'd come down to Florida from New York. You would dial our 212 number back then, and we'd be down here in Florida. The call would hit a 212 number. We would keep separate apartments, and that call would get forwarded. We'd be down here working it. So we're talking about going back a million years, but the point is, I've been in this business literally as a kid. I grew up in this business. I watched how my father moved the lines on certain guys, while certain guys didn't even pay any attention to them. So we had a few different types of bettors, and one was your handicappers, your Walters, your computers, your coaches, like I said. Yep. The other guys were other books that were hedging off bets. Now, we would move the line a little bit on them because we figured they knew enough to respect who their smarter players were. But when it came to suckers, squares, and it didn't matter how much they were betting, if you were a guy that owned a limousine business, or you were a guy that earned a chain of restaurants, just because you had a lot of money, that didn't mean you were sharp. Yep. You were a square. you bet the square sides. Look, back in my day, that's why I make fun of guys with teasers and parlays. You bet a teaser, it was 6 points, tie you lose, 6-5. It was built for the BM to rob the money. That's why I always talk about it. But this is when I go back to these days, and I would see, let's call it, one of the sharps come in, and we got 3 on the game, and they lay the favorite. We go to 4.5, not move a half a point or a point. We move it a point and a half because we know, what my dad knew at that time, line was going to get that far anyway.
Yep.
So without computers back in the day, you might be 15 minutes behind when calling up this BM. When I say BM, that's a bookmaker, calling up this guy. And I got 4.5, and this guy still got 3. Maybe you're laying 3, taking 4.5 for me, catching the side, catching the middle. These are the things I learned. I learned from the best way back in the day. Again, that's why I take exception to the guys that want to challenge me. I've been around before. Most of you guys are born answering phones, dealing with the best of the best. Not good, the best of the best. This is when I started to make my own lines.
You were mentioning there about how you would, move lines 1.5 points down if you get sharp action on that. But because, like you said, it's not on computers, at that point you could still, sell the 4.5 line to the square guys who are betting the favorite on the other side. So then you have a 1.5 room, a middle room.
Absolutely. Look, back then we were at a point where if it was a Monday Night Football game, or if it was the Thanksgiving days, or whatever big TV game it was, yep, we knew the squares. And again, I'm not going to insult anybody, but 99.9% of you guys are squares. You're a little more knowledgeable now than they were back then, because all the info that's out there, but you're still squares. Well, you're not a square when you're beating the number, when you have the best of the number every day going for you. Yep. If you could be on the hot side, 1.5 points later, you're a square. That doesn't make you a sharp guy. All you was on the sharp side, but at the wrong number. But we could actually charge the squares back then a higher number. Let's say that the sharp guys were on the dog. Okay, let's take the San Francisco Seattle game a couple of weeks ago, the playoff game, yep, for instance. Let's just say the sharp guys were on the Seahawks in that particular game. So what was the line? 9.5, whatever it might have been. We get the sharps take 9.5. I can have the suckers laying 10 or 10.5 in a game like that, because they're only going to lay the 49ers. So this was the edge that we had. We couldn't be beat back at the time. So if I got a ticket from a square, we threw it to the side. The numbers, the games that we charted was the sharp business, the Walters, the computers, the other books that might be hedging off other sharp work. That stuff we chart because you want to get overloaded in one game.
And that still hasn't changed in some regards, right? I mean, like even today, sharp action, for those of you guys who don't know, it's still flagged accounts. Like even through computers, those are the accounts that are flagged. They don't give a shit about the other, thousands of people betting.
Absolutely. Hey, look, let's talk about, I had a bet game yesterday. I bet the Houston Rockets at 8, whatever in the morning. That's Eastern, okay? Mine was 3.5 at that time. Houston Rockets are the worst team in the NBA. Just so happened it was a spot for them. I've got to hear from newbies, rookies, how terrible of a book of a handicapper I am, and I'm an idiot, and every word under the book. That was the sharpest bet of the day. The book, every sharp guy was on the Rockets. The line closed to. I had one idiot claiming that the public moved the number. So first of all, the thought of the public betting on the Houston Rockets. Again, I'll bring up a saying I used to hear. A very intelligent man used to tell me, do yourself a favor and shut the fuck up. Let everybody think you're stupid instead of opening your mouth and proving that you're fucking stupid.
Yep.
So one guy's telling me that the public money all over Houston is moving the line. And I'm like, look, the public money doesn't move squat. The books don't care about the public money. That's why you got some guys out there claiming that they bet 50, 80, 100,000 on a game, and the line don't move. If you're a sharp guy, you can't get off more than 5 dimes somewhere. Yep. So it's only the sharp money. Look, guys, years ago, okay, I was with a betting group. I would move the line on a 3-dime bet overnight. I used to get first crack at a couple of offshore sports books before they put the overnights up. 3 dimes is all I would get. It's a decent bet just for me for back then, but not big enough. But they would move the line off a 3-dime bet. There's guys that can't move the line off a 30-dime bet. Okay, yep. It's who you are. If your account is flagged. And again, getting back to yesterday, if I take 3.5 on the Rockets and the game closes 2, regardless of the outcome, I'm on the right side. A lot of my guys don't understand what I say being on the right side. The right side. This means I'm not the only sharp guy in the world that was on the game. I didn't move the game from 3.5 to 2. The public certainly didn't move the game from 3.5 to 2. That means other sharp guys bet it at +3 and at +2.5. And that's why the game closed 2. And that's what you are. When you're a sharp guy, that's what, did the Rockets look like a terrible side? Not when they were up 19. As a matter of fact, I had one guy make a comment on my Instagram like, oh, he just blew the game for me. Great pick. We were up big, and they were already giving me the applause. That's why I hate getting these DMs. Don't DM me when I'm doing good, and certainly don't do it when I'm doing bad because I got a volatile temper.
Yeah, as far as the Houston Rockets being the quote unquote right side, I mean, anytime you have closing line value of 1.5 or larger, you have a dog on that side. They're up double digits heading into the fourth quarter. That is the right side. And I mean, you'll take that bet 9 times. Every day of the week that ends with a Y, you'll take that bet.
I'm going to take that bet every day of the week. Ben, we're going to lose at least 40% of our bets, no matter what. If we're on the right side, you're still going to lose 40% of your bets. Absolutely. I mean, we've seen countless games this year. Curry, Clay, Wiggins, and Dre out, and they're winning outright. Anything can happen. If nothing else, understand this about sports. Anything can happen on any given day. All you could get is an edge on this thing, and that's all we want to have is just an edge. We get an edge, just enough, we'll win at the end of the year. Hasn't been so. And what I'll say is this. I'm fully transparent. This has been my worst NBA season since 2006, 2007. And the difference in that's about 15 years ago. There was a referee named Tim Donaghy that was around then that caused me to lose a lot of money in the beginning of the season. And if you want to get into that, we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. For those of you guys who haven't heard of that betting scandal before Tim Donaghy, we'll give John's perspective a little bit on it here. But basically just a referee who eventually got caught rigging games. There's, documentaries out there on Netflix you can go watch. And there was just a whole FBI investigation behind it. But obviously, not just him, as far as what he was doing on the court, there's a lot of things that go behind the scenes, as far as getting that action down, having people being on the right sides, getting that information. And like you said, John, the betting nowadays being all computerized, everyone having access to it, different story. So you were seeing a little bit of a behind the scenes to that.
Look, there's nothing like living through it. And that's why there's nothing like experience. I lived through Tim Donaghy. You guys can go fact check this all you want. I don't give a fuck what Tim Donaghy says. He wasn't using his knowledge to bet games. Tim Donaghy was fixing games. Now, obviously, the NBA doesn't want that story out there. That'll hurt your brand. But there's no question about it. So here's how I first learned about it. It's 2007, as I said. And Detroit Pistons, it's just very funny. We're going to talk about this tonight because tonight being Thursday night, Detroit Pistons are actually playing at the Brooklyn Nets tonight. Back in 2007, the Detroit Pistons were playing at the New Jersey Nets. And they were I'm going to say a 4 or 5 point favorite. I don't remember exactly what it is. They were favorite. Detroit Pistons at that time. There was the Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace Pistons. This was the Jason Kidd, Vincent Carter, Richard Jefferson Nets. Just couldn't see the Pistons being that big a favorite. They were the better team, but not that big a favorite. At the Nets that night, I was on the Nets. Got a tie game going into the fourth quarter, and that's when the Pistons outscored the Nets 21-13. They held the Nets to 13 points. They outshot them at the free throw line 31-19. Back in these days, I used to pick up the paper the next day And that's how I would read my stuff. And I pick up either the Post or the Daily News, and it was Richard Jefferson. He's an ESPN commentator now. Maybe he'll remember this comment. Exact comment. It was like playing 8 guys out there. Something snapped in my head. Well, that's 5 and the 3 refs. That's 8. Wrote the 3 referees' names down that night, one which was of Donaghy. The other 2 he ref that game were Kevin Maurer and Kevin Fair. Couple of days went by. All of a sudden, another game. Look, I've been a line maker my entire life. Like I said, learned from the best. Saw how my old man would move off guys like Walters, the sharp guys, the computers. Learned what they were doing. Learned how to make my numbers. My numbers right now are second to none. And that I'll tell you right now. There's not a computer in the world that has better numbers than my NBA numbers. But when numbers going against me, it's not right. And I look for a reason. What could be wrong? Well, again, another game went against me. Sure enough, the line went the wrong way, especially late, just before game time. And I looked at the 3 referees, and one of them happened to be Tim Donaghy again. Tim Donaghy was out there fixing games that he was officiating in. Again, he can come up with any bullshit story he wants. He can go on his whatever speaking to. I lived it. I bet on it. I bet against it. I got my ass handed to me for a while till I found out, okay, if Tim Donaghy's the ref and the line is moving a certain way, that's the way to bet. It got to the point where I wasn't the only sharp guy that knew about it. No. Don Best, back at that time, Don Best, even till now, and even back then, releases the officials for every game. They just so happened not to release the officials in games that Donaghy was going to be the referee. Again, well, guys, all these things are facts. That date, like I said, Detroit Pistons at the New Jersey Nets, December 16th, 2007. Like I said, go fact check all you want. Go look for Richard Jefferson's quote the next day in the newspaper. He told that to one of the New York sports writers. I don't make shit up. That's why, again, when I tell you guys I've been around 40 years, I get these wise cracks. I'm an old man. First of all, I'm an old man that'll probably kick your fucking ass. Unless you really, really could throw hands, I'm going to kick your fucking ass. But besides that, with age comes experience. And the amount of knowledge and experience that I have is beyond anybody that's out there. Few guys rival me in line making and what I know of the game. So again, if I give you a game, hey, yeah, we lost the Houston Rockets. I'm not going to cry about it. But don't tell me that the public moved the number. You don't know what you're talking about. Ben helps me out. So we're on top of Don Best and all the odds. 16 hours a day, watching every single move. I know who's going to get bet, when they're going to get bet. And that's why I'm trying to give you guys the best sports information out there. Nobody's going to give you the info that I can give you. Nobody has the experience that I have. Look, this year's been rough. Part of it has been the injuries. I told you, had a partner that once had a hook inside of Don Best. We would get injuries a little before time. Somebody's getting the injuries first thing in the morning. Somebody's beating the injuries that are not getting out there. This is sports gambling. Anything a hand can touch, there could be some larceny in it. Look, you're not fixing games. Again, let's go to that area of it. Vegas put the call in. Those things are so stupid. Vegas doesn't control these things, guys. Vegas line makers put up a line, and then guys like me, like I told you, will bet the overnight lines and will sharpen the line up. It's not Vegas. The guys in Vegas that are making lines, they're making whatever they're making, a couple of grand maybe. Or now maybe they're made by computer algorithms. But they're not the closing line. Look at how much some of these games move from the opening line to where it closes. It's the sharp guys moving the line that makes you say, this is a head scratcher.
Just to take it back really quick to the Donaghy thing, you were mentioning about Donaghy. You were going about how the NBA obviously didn't want to pitch it as far as him rigging games, fixing games because they don't want that narrative. And I mentioned before about the documentary. Now, he states in the documentary that 98% of his calls were correct based off the official reports. He was in top 3 of the officials. And now David Stern is, as far as a commissioner, probably did as good as anyone could have as far as sweeping under scandals, whether it's, Ewing getting the number 1 pick, the Jordan gambling days, the 0-2 Kings, whatever you want to go for. David Stern was a very good job. And then you also mentioned that Don Best and the NBA were withholding the official announcement. So not only do you think that—
Well, I'm not saying the NBA withheld the official announcement. Don Best was not releasing. Again, I don't know if our viewers know, on our Don Best, we get the announced officials for every game. I don't know if you could possibly bring that up, Ben, and show them.
Yes, I believe I could show that.
So even back then, it would be sometime late morning, early afternoon, you would be known who the 3 officials are. Because officials tend to call, some call more fouls, some call less fouls. They all have certain tendencies. Some guys bet just on the officials, whether it's a home team or they favor the road team. Whatever it is, for the Donaghy games, as this became more apparent, they started not announcing the officials.
So here's
what do we got moving on? Is that the Nets game moving?
Yep, that Nets game currently going down to 7.5 at some spots now.
What's the info? Is there an info in there that we know Curry is going to be out in that game? I know this is late information for you guys, but we're actually working as we're shooting the show.
It just looks like all those guys there for the Pistons going to end up being probable.
Isaiah Stewart in the lineup also.
Yep.
Just such a coincidence. I love that today Detroit Pistons are playing Brooklyn Nets. As we mentioned, this 15 years ago, it was the Detroit Pistons at the New Jersey Nets, as we're talking about this Tim Donaghy story.
And there it is, just the official box that Don Best prints up there. You see who's crew chief tonight in that Pistons-Nets game, Bill Kennedy. If you guys go on the NBA official website, you can actually go see a database of who's officiated which game at what time, which day. And then another site, covers.com, they actually release some betting trends there based on officials. And if you guys looking to get a leg up in that angle.
So again, as we're getting back to the story, this is my toughest year. All transparency, been off to a terrible start since the Donaghy days, and what was it? A couple of weeks ago, January 12th, we had the Lakers in a Dallas Mavs at Lakers game goes to double overtime. Now, this isn't me saying anything. This is the official NBA report saying that there were 7 missed calls late in that game. Getting back to what Ben was saying about David Stern, look, some calls are missed. There's no question about it. Yeah. If you guys, if you're on Instagram, you're seeing all the reels and you're seeing a lot of, how they make fun of Angel Hernandez, how terrible his strike zone is. But you go back days and they show, what was his name? The umpire, Greg, with in the Atlanta Brave game, the Marlins game with Hernandez. Guys were missing by a foot. It's one thing to miss a call because the game has gone too fast. You've got almost every pitcher coming out of the bullpen throwing 100 miles an hour. So maybe you're missing calls. Then it's different if you're purposely not seeing calls. So missing a call is one thing because of the speed of the game. The toughest call is that charge block call. It's a bang, bang call. 2 people could look at it the same thing and call it 2 different ways.
Which happens sometimes.
So by the percentages, maybe that's what happened. But again, you can miss the calls, but then you could see the calls and just call it wrong on purpose. The stats are, in that particular game, Pistons go to the free throw 31 times, free throw line 31. Nets go 19. They hold them to 13 points in the fourth quarter. These are documented facts. Like I said, the next game that I go to, Donaghy, same thing. Late line movement. Look, why is the line going against my line? I'm one of the best handicappers in the world in the NBA. It's going against me because they know Donaghy's there and he's going with a certain team. Donaghy was making bets on games so the story goes. And then in case he was betting, we're going out and pounding it in a big way. Again, not information. He was fixing games. If he was betting other games, these were the games he was the referee at. Like I said, go look at Richard Jefferson's statement. Ask RJ. Maybe RJ wants to come in for an interview. Ask him if he remembers this date 15 years ago in that statement.
Yeah, see if Richard Jefferson can get out of those ESPN binds to come out here and talk about that. Not sure the chances there. Sticking with this topic, though, a little bit about your background, a little bit of, obviously, I mean, for you guys, sports betting was federally, the ban was moved for it federally in 2018. Up in there, you had your few spots, a couple of casinos, Vegas, obviously. Very rare you get someone who actually has experience from this era. And moving onward now into this point where it is getting legalized state by state by state, what would you say are some advantages just to now having that process is where it is regulated? It is kind of looked after more so by federal agencies.
Well, look, you're not dealing with the riffraff. That back in the day, if you weren't in Nevada, I mean, you had to deal with it, and an on the street book. Even if you were betting offshore, you probably had to deal with an agent. Some of them aren't the most trustworthy guys in the world.
Yeah. Okay,
you're probably not going to win anyway if you're a square. And this is the whole thing. Look, one of we used to try to be. Our customers we treated them like customers. We bought them Christmas gifts. We took care of our customers. It was a business. We're talking about back in the day. And I would remind them, hey, it's for entertainment only. Like if you're going to go blow 100, taking your wife to dinner and a movie or whatever it might be, maybe you want to blow that 100 betting on a game. It'd give you that 2.5 hours of excitement, just like a Broadway show or whatever. Just remember, for the regular guy, it's for entertainment only. For the shops, it was to make money. Look, I'm going to share stories each day. Some of the stories I'm going to tell you are going to knock you off your fucking chair. Believe me. So check back in episodes. I'm going to tell you about harness racing stories. I got some doozies, but we'll leave one for each day. For now, just to give you an idea, like I said, been in this business my entire life. Why am I bringing stuff up? Hey, my two partners, my dad and my one other partner, both deceased. Feds want to come after me for a 30-year-old bookmaking pinch. Bring the cuffs. Bring me in. What can I tell you? Just telling you guys, this is why at this stage of the game, I can tell you I am a pro. So when I hear again from some of you young guys, okay, I'm an old man and I'm in this, I'm in that. Yeah, I know. I'm the sharpest knife in the drawer. Just know that.
Yep, absolutely. You are. And we can use some of that sharpness here. We can kind of talk a little bit of NBA, NFL. We have AFC and NFC Championship games coming up this weekend. We can start there. We touched a little bit about it on the first episode, which, by the way, guys, quick reminder, YouTube, click your like, subscribes. If you're on Spotify, make sure you follow us there so you can keep getting these, hear some more of John's stories. Let's talk about this Cincinnati KC game, John. So line opened up, KC 2-point favorite, immediately started to drop. You were able to get on that at +1 as more info kind of came out throughout the week. Cincinnati at one point went all the way up to a 2.5-point favorite. And now this line's coming back down to a PK, and now KC won at some spots. So
all the way back. You got me. I saw Mike Lombardi, who an intelligent guy, I've been on his show before, talking about the Bengals should assume that Mahomes is 100%. And I like Mike, and I'm like, why would you assume that? Yep. There's no way he's going to be 100%.
Agreed.
So Don Best goes and announces Mahomes probable. Well, who the fuck didn't think he was going to play? Whatever they were going to shoot him up with, he was back that day when he got hurt. He has a high ankle sprain. There's no way he could be 100%. So I'm not going to expect him to be 100%. Because I know he's not going to be able to do the things he can, that there is going to be a different game plan. I mean, if you're the Chiefs, Coach Reed is another genius. I mean, he's not going to make Mahomes try to do things he can on a bum ankle. So that ankle's hurt. A high ankle sprain is a couple of weeks. An NBA player is out a few weeks with a high ankle sprain. Could be 4 weeks. He don't get tackled in an NBA game. Yep. Mahomes could be out of this game on the first sack.
I was just going to make that point. Maybe he is getting close to 90% per se going into this game, but boom, one bad tackle, the ankle planted the wrong way, and he's right back to that spot of just gimping around.
And granted, that could happen to Joe Burrow. That could happen to anybody. You're, as an NFL player, every play could be your last play, unfortunately. Just the chances are that much more so for Mahomes. I don't expect him to be 100%. I liked the Bengals if Mahomes was healthy. They've played 3 times. Score is Jeff Burrow 3, Patrick Mahomes 0. They've won in KC. They're going in there total confidence. I watched both teams play. Cincinnati was dominant at Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
KC, I know Mahomes playing on a bum ankle. They got by Jacksonville. I think Cincinnati is the better team right now, especially with Mahomes at the injury. I think they get the money. As far as the line, I jumped on +1 because I thought the line would be Bengals 2. Bengals -2. It got there. I don't know what brought it back. That I can tell you. I just don't know. I don't see it.
So as far as the confidence that you mentioned with Cincinnati, I mean, confidence at an all-time high. I don't know if you saw the clips, but there were guys on the Bengals calling Arrowhead Burrowhead.
Burrowhead.
Yeah, I mean, that's just your team getting behind your quarterback. When your team has that much faith in your quarterback, that's a good overall locker room presence heading in on the road playoff game.
Absolutely, that's huge. And look, they're behind this Burrow. They feel, look, the best was, I think one of the reporters asked Burrow before the previous game something about being an underdog. He's like, I don't feel like an underdog, and he just the confidence he is. Yeah. He knows he's not the underdog. I said it on our first podcast. I believe we're seeing the shaping here of the next great quarterback. He's in that class already. He's a baby yet. Let's see how far this guy can go. He did it last year with a terrible offensive line. Terrible. What's the limit this guy can go? We'll see. I like Joe Burrow and the Bengals at KC, especially, like I said, Mahomes' high ankle sprain, going to be tough to overcome it. If they do, hey, you got me.
Yeah, let's move on to this NFC Championship game. So 49ers, the Eagles, their quarterback situation. There are a couple of young guys as well. Purdy seeking to be the first rookie quarterback to win a conference championship game and advance to the Super Bowl. I believe the other 4, Mark Sanchez, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco, and I'm blanking on the 4th there, so apologize. But this is going to be a Niners defense win if San Francisco pulls it off. Now, granted, Purdy has looked solid. They have the weapons. Philly, we keep talking about it. One of the best pass defense. They are the best pass defense in football this year. But San Francisco is going to be coming on the ground. I mean, you're going to have McCaffrey, Mitchell, and then what they do with Debo as far as the end arounds and everything else. They're going to be attacking that ground game, opening up just enough there for Purdy to take advantage of it. I have a hard as much as NFL is a quarterback-driven sport, I have a hard time going against this juggernaut Niners defense.
Man, it's San Fran, 12 straight wins, 10-2 against the spread. I mean, they're just on fire. They're rolling. Yes, Eagles last week looked like they had looked earlier in the year. They did that against the Giants. Cowboys were a worthy opponent, went to San Francisco. Just 2 different classes. Cowboys and Giants, 2 different classes. Could that Cowboy game taken a little bit out of the 49ers? Like, look, last year, Bengals get to the Super Bowl. They were not the best team. Chiefs, Bills, both better than them. Bengals had the fortune that KC and Buffalo knocked the shit out of each other the prior week in one of the greatest games of all time, went to overtime, and they caught a Chief team on a letdown, and they go in there and get a W. They're a better team this year. The Bengals, a much better team, been with the experience. KC's not as good, and they got a gimpy ankle quarterback. But getting back to the other league, like I said, did the Cowboys just take just enough out? Now San Francisco's got to travel across the country to go to Philly. I still make San Fran a better team, just a bit. Eagles will have the home field advantage. That's why they're the favorite. If I can get a 3, if I can get a field goal, I'd be on the 49ers. What I'm looking at in this game is the under. You've got the 49ers, best team against the run, 77 yards a game. Eagles ran for 268 against the Giants. That's my guarantee. Can't guarantee a lot of things in life. Gonna guarantee you Eagles ain't getting 268 on the 49ers rushing. So they're the best team against the run. Eagles, best team against the pass. 70 sacks in the regular season, 15 more than the next best team, and another 5 last week against the mobile Danny Jones. So you get the best pass defense, the best rushing defense going up against each other. I expect the last time they played, I believe score was 17-11. I'm going to say that was either week 2 or week 3. Last year, 49ers went to visit the Eagles. Eagles weren't the same team yet. Eagles didn't get good, and they were never as good as they were this year, but they didn't get good till the second half of the year. I don't think it'll be that low, but I'll be betting under. So far, this game has gone up from an opener of 45.5 to 46.5. So I'm just waiting for it to hit the limit. When it does, I'll be on the under. If the 49ers, if I could get 3, I'll take 3.
Yeah, I agree with you on it being a low-scoring matchup. I'd say the only fear to it being a high-scoring matchup, Philly is up there as they've led the NFL as far as turnovers forced. Brock Purdy, shaking in the boots, those a couple turnovers. Could see that turning into a high-scoring game. But with that said, Dallas was second, right behind Philly as far as turnovers forced, and Brock Purdy, no problem whatsoever. And you made the comment that, maybe the tough win over Dallas takes something off San Francisco. I think in their situation, with the rookie quarterback in his specific, not even played 10 games yet, that is nothing but a confidence builder and confidence at an all-time high. I mean, you go undefeated in the regular season, you win a pair of games in the playoffs, you beat one of the top defenses, and going on the conference championship game, I see Brock Purdy not missing a beat here going on against Philly.
Look, I agree with you. Cowboys, no slouches. I believe they were 3rd in sacks this year. I believe it was Philly. Not that I believe it was Philly. Then I think KC was 2nd with 55. And I think Cowboys 3rd with 54. So they can get after the quarterback also. Did he have a great game? No, he did not, Purdy. He did what he had to do. Turn it over to the defense, manage the game. Just would have to take them plus 3 points, not taking any less. But at 3, I would take the 49ers.
And that's a little bit of a conference championship recap, guys. We'll head on now into NBA. What's been going on here? So we obviously talked a little bit of preface. What's been going on the last couple of days. Some teams getting some key guys back, though. So we can start with that. Just a little bit of a recap before we break down the 5-game Friday card. Only one team, the Cavs, are playing on a back-to-back tomorrow. So we have a bit better of an idea of what's going on with tomorrow's games than we did when we recorded on Monday. But yeah, let's start with the guys who came back. Anthony Davis and Brandon Ingram. Ironically, the guys traded for each other. LA gets AD back. They have a nice little performance there against the Spurs. Nothing too crazy, but AD, considering his minute, he played the 3rd most minutes on the team behind LeBron and Westbrook, was productive. Lakers got a win. They're bringing Hachimura. He was productive off the bench. This Lakers team, I mean, they're still missing a couple of these 3-and-D guys with Reeves and with Lonnie Walker. Nonetheless, they're starting to, get the pieces back slowly, maybe be a bit more of a complete basketball team.
Yeah. Hey, look, with AD in the lineup, we saw it earlier in the year. LeBron went out and AD exerted himself, and he looked great. He had some monster games. Yep. Can he return back to that off the injury? We'll see. If he can get there. With the addition of Hachimura, if you get these other pieces, and they're just pieces, but they're nice pieces to have in Walker, in Reeves back, Lakers will break into that bottom tier, that play-in area, that 6 through 10. Remember, first 6 teams are in the playoffs. 7, 8, 9, and 10 is what they have that play-in. So that's where I have the Lakers slated if everybody stays healthy. But is there any guarantee AD and LeBron will stay healthy through the rest of the year? Yeah. We'll see. LeBron's getting close to breaking the all-time record. The guy's a beast. You could see with AD in the lineup last night, he just took it down a notch. He didn't have to get 30-plus to secure a win, because that's been the case really for the last few weeks with Davis out. If he didn't get 30, they weren't even going to be in the game.
To your point about the Lakers maybe getting into the play-in, right now they are behind a couple of teams. So they're in that 13th slot. You have 12 Portland, 11 OKC, 10 is Utah. But they're one game behind Utah. And even still, the entire West, really, with the exception of Denver and Memphis, they're all within there. I mean, Lakers are still just about 4 games back from Sacramento.
A lot of basketball to get played yet. Still a lot of basketball to get played.
Just a little quick future price there. Something I thought a little bit of value in was Lakers to make the playoffs, still sitting at plus 175 right now. 1 game back of that 10th seed, getting healthier, making some moves.
Do they consider making the playoffs, making the play-in?
Yes, they do on those to make the playoff bets. They do. So
plus 175 wouldn't seem like a bad bet then right now. We're going to see what the Lakers look like their next game at Boston Celtics. So they played last night. Tonight's Thursday night. As you know, we're pre-recording this. They played last night against San Antonio. You can't go by what happened against San Antonio is abysmal.
Yeah.
They give up 121 points per game. They're the only team in the NBA allowing opponents to shoot over 50%. So, guys came back who haven't shot a basketball in a month. Let's see what he does against the Celtics. So they'll have 2 more days now to get a couple of practices in. Let's see what the Lakers look like in that next game against Boston. We can make a real opinion. If they look like I think they're going to look, I think they're going to look okay. Plus 175 to make the play-in wouldn't be a bad situation.
Not a bad situation at all. And the other team that I wanted to bring up there was Brandon Ingram. So you have this Pelicans team. Obviously, they've had a slew of injuries. They just haven't been a full, that starting 5 unit, which is a really, really good starting 5 unit. We have not seen full for very much this season. Ingram comes back. He plays a little bit of limited minutes. Now, that's another team I find pretty interesting when it comes down to these future prices. I'm going to pull this up here on screen, John. These are DraftKings future prices. Let's see if we can get this here. So as of right now, to win the Western Conference, you have Denver, who's leading the way, plus 350. I know we don't talk too much about futures, but just think it's something we can kind of touch in a little bit. I know a lot of you guys who watch do like to bet these futures. Let's see. Give me a little bit of an
look, Ingram is, we talk about it all the time. Ingram has missed a lot of time. He's been out since November. With him out since November, I think he played 26 minutes, maybe went 4 for 15 last night. We always talk about it, the rust. The longer a guy has been out, he's going to be a little more rusty that first game back. So look for him to get better and better in the next couple of days. But Ingram being injured, it's like me going for my workout. It's just going to happen. Zion is the real question mark on that team. He's been out a couple of weeks. How much longer is he going to be out? When they were all on the court, I mean, you're looking at a starting lineup. McCollum, Ingram, Jones, who gives you D, Zion, Valanciunas. That's a solid starting 5. They got a nice bench. They could be dangerous. Can they be healthy? And how much more are they going to drop in the standings to get healthy? You don't want to get that first series against Memphis or Denver, 2 teams, they just don't lose at home. But look at the West. Look at the records of these teams on the road. I believe it's just Denver now, the only team that has a better than 500 road record as of today. Last year, if you remember, Phoenix Suns, they were the best team in the league, also had the best road record, 32-9. And now you're struggling to have anybody over 500 on the road out west. Making home court advantage much more important.
Yeah, as far as some of those best road records in the West, it is Denver is 12-11 on the road. Sacramento, the other team above 500 on the road, they're 11-9. And the only other team who is at 500, believe it or not, the Clippers at a 13-13 mark.
13-13, but I think they're actually giving them 2 wins against the Lakers that are actually in their home building because they beat them when Lakers were the home team for 2 of those games. Been a bigger difference home and away this year than previous years.
And just to compare that a little bit to the Eastern Conference, Celtics 17-9, Sixers 13-9. You have the Nets 16-11, the Knicks even 14-10. But like we mentioned all the time, the Knicks are the best road against the spread team. And we can take that right into tonight, John. I know we have the Knicks going up against the Celtics. That's the video you gave out on Instagram and TikTok. I'll let you break it down here for the people tuning into the podcast.
One of the reasons I'm on the Knicks tonight, +9. Knicks 16-8 on the road against the spread. Tie with Oklahoma City with the best against the spread record on the road in the NBA. Celtics coming off a rough trip. They won only one of the games. It was in Toronto. They didn't cover any of the three. Yes, there was some issues. Brogdon missed a couple of games because of personal. They sat Robert Williams one of the games. Smart is going to continue to be out. And that's another reason I like the Knicks tonight. He's the defensive player of the year. Jalen Brunson's going to be the key. Can Jalen Brunson give us 25? If 25 or better from Brunson, without Smart there, Knicks will stay under double digits. They lost 2 meetings in Boston last year. Prior to that, they had covered 3 straight going up there. Division rivals usually play a tough game. Earlier this year, Celtics gave it to the Knicks. Knicks weren't playing as well yet. Celtics were playing real good. So let's see if the Knicks go back up there and give it right back. Like I said, the Celtics coming off a little bit of a rougher road trip. The 3-game average, 99.7 points a game. So they got to get that scoring back together. Maybe they get it done tonight. But I'll take 9 points, which is what I took this morning. If you got to beat me by double digits, let's see it happen.
Yeah, and not a major look ahead, I would say, for Boston, but they do get the Lakers coming into town Saturday night. It's an ABC primetime Saturday game, and not a major look ahead, but still a game on the schedule. You know, they probably have circled there. Tatum's had his fair bit of showdowns with LeBron. We'll see how that game pans out tonight with the Knicks and the Celtics, but 5 games coming up on this Friday slate, John, and like we mentioned, not a lot of back-to-backs. Only one back-to-back is going to be for Cleveland, who faces Houston tonight. OKC tomorrow. Donovan Mitchell, question mark, probably going to be out. No need to play against this Houston team. What are they, 2-19 their last 21 games? So we'll see if he ends up getting the night off. But as far as this first game tomorrow night, we have the Bucks and the Pacers, John.
Bucks and Pacers, and we talk about one team owning the other team, and that's the case with Milwaukee. They've won 9 straight, 8-1 against the spread. They just met on the 16th. Bucks were without Giannis that night. Pacers had a big lead. Bucks came back and crushed them by 13 points. This number's a high number. Bucks just lost Bobby Portis. He's going to be out for a while. That's a big piece for them. Yeah, they got Middleton back, but he's only played 15 minutes in his first 2 games back and shooting combined 6 for 15. He's still not right. Numbers way too high, but there's a couple of question marks in this game for the Pacers. Miles Turner being one of them. Naismith is questionable. And Nembhard, he missed the last 2 games with an illness, questionable again. He'd been starting with Halliburton out. Just the ownership makes it Milwaukee a nobody, no matter what the line is. The last game we saw, Milwaukee was against Denver. Denver had nobody to play, so I don't really go by that game. The game prior to that, they went into Detroit, and they were up 30 most of the game, settling for a 150-130 win over Detroit. Indiana just 1-8. We bet against them last night. We had the Magic -5.
Sweaty one down the stretch there.
Excuse me, Ben.
Oh, I just said that was a sweaty cover down the stretch. Almost blew that one after being up 20.
With the Magic, yeah. Well, I think they scored the first 10 or 12 points, got out of the gate real quick. Yep. Just Indiana, like I said, since Halliburton out, 1-8, 2-7 against the spread. No reason to bet the Pacers here, but 7 that game's actually up to 8 now. That's a gigantic number. Cannot lay the Bucks in that spot.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's Bucks are nobody as far as looking at it, but the number's too big. The mention of Bobby Portis, how big he is. He's second on the team in rebounding, getting 10.1 rebounds a game, which is actually 10th in the NBA this season. Coming off the bench, getting double-digit rebounds is definitely a huge factor. This Milwaukee team, they've been winning games, not covering as much recently. They cover more at home. They're actually leading the NBA as far as home covers. The angle I would look on this game, and it's an angle I've been playing against Indiana for the last month, I'd say maybe, Bucks first quarter. This Pacers team is beyond and above the worst first quarter team in the NBA. They're losing first quarters by an average of 5 points. If you go look at their last 3 games, they've lost first quarters by an average of 11 points. John just mentioned about how Orlando yesterday came out in a 12-0 run. Pacers have lost 15 of their last 16 first quarters. So if you guys are looking for a fun little trend to keep on riding, it's going against this Indiana team early in the game because they just keep coming out slow. 15
of 16 sounds like a nice number to me. 15 of 16. Yeah, hey, Bucks in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's a nice little trend there. Hey, you assholes watching, don't mush that trend, all right? If I'm telling you that, you got to keep it between us. Next one, we got Grizzlies and T-Wolves. John, fun little matchup from the playoffs last season. A little bit of beef there. I'll let you get it going.
Man, what Memphis, they're looking fantastic, but just as I was talking about, they go on the road, can't get the job done. 4 road games on this trip, 4 losses. Now they'll come in. It's the 5th and last game of an 8-day road trip. They lose another tough one at Golden State last night. They've lost Steven Adams for 3 to 5 weeks. They're in a tough little spot now, Memphis. They'll go against Minnesota, as you said, from the playoffs last year. Memphis won that series in 6 games. They won 2 games at Minnesota by a combined 17 points, Mini winning 1 game at home by 1. This is going to be a tough game. Again, right now I'm looking at the opening line was 4.5. That game is down to 3 right now, and that's where I make the game closer to 3. 4.5 was high. It was nothing but a take. Minnesota, just a weird team. Lose to the Rockets the other night. Come back last night, and they'll beat New Orleans on the road. Just no rhyme or reason with this team. So we'll see which Minnesota team shows up tomorrow night. Tough game, but I think 3 is the right number. 4.5 was the opener.
Yeah, Minnesota is a weird team to get a read on. Seems like they play better with Rudy Gobert out of the lineup almost. Memphis, you mentioned, is a horrible road trip. And they, like you mentioned earlier, this is one of those Western Conference teams that has had the road struggles significantly. 0 for 4 on this trip, 1-3 against the spread, coming off a tough loss at Golden State, heading into the final game of a road trip. As far as this matchup this season, they split 2 meetings, each winning at home since the whole playoff matchup last season. To me, it would be Minnesota or nobody. Tough little game, though. Would need a little bit more than that 3. Like John mentioned, that number is pretty sharp. Now we have I was just gonna say we have a nice little Florida matchup here down by you, John, Magic, and Miami. And I was surprised this is the first time they're meeting this season. Looking at the schedule-wise, looks like they're getting all these matchups down the back half of the season.
Yep, it's the first time this year. They met usually, obviously, meet 4 times every year. They met 4 times last year. The only game the Magic won, it was the last game of the season. They won by 14 points. I throw that out. Heat sat everybody in that game. So that was April 10th. So that was the only game that the Magic won. Heat won both games in Miami by 27, won the game in Orlando by 10. So they kind of own this series. 8-1 prior to the Magic winning the last game of the year last year. But just 4-5 against the spread. So prior to last year, the Magic were covering games. Like the way the Magic are playing, that's why I bet them last night. That and the fact I think Indiana's been real bad. Miami Heat coming off their last game was 2 days ago, a win against the Celtics. Butler sat out that game. He's supposed to be back for this game. Right now, I think that number's 7 is right where it should be. I would have nobody if the line stayed right where it is now.
Yeah, very key to note there on that trend. And I know sometimes, I forget who it was commenting, stats don't matter, blah, blah, blah. And it's true, not all stats do matter because the trends had to have some significance to it. And like John pointed out, that's a great way to read that. That end of the season win that Orlando had doesn't have much meaning because Miami sat everyone. So it is a little bit of a Heat owns the matchup. Numbers a bit steep for me, despite them owning the matchup, especially with how Orlando's been playing lately. 6-1 against the spread, 4-3 straight up. Their last 7 games, they're just covering numbers, playing within. Even against Indiana last night, they pulled it out. And Miami just up there, bottom 3 as far as teams covering at home. So Jimmy Butler, he was pulled last game with a little bit of back. He's supposed to be returning. Would lean here to Orlando. Tough to go against those ownership trends. And then
it's tough to go against it, but it's also tough. Look, Heat score the least amount of points in the NBA.
Correct.
So tough to lay those 7s when you're not scoring a lot of points. Magic are down there too at around 110 a game, I believe. Just I think 7's a fair number for the game. That's counting Butler as in. And like I said, I've got him listed as probable.
And we can go on to the next matchup. This one's the one that has Cavs on a back-to-back, guys, so I'm not going to be able to give you guys too much information on it, but we can talk about OKC and the matchup a bit. OKC, they finally dropped the game. I mean, they've been playing red hot. Very high-scoring matchup, 137-132 loss to the Hawks on Wednesday. They're 7-3 straight up, 9-1-1 against the spread their last 10 games. Or 7-3 straight up, 8-1-1 against the spread their last 10 games. As far as the matchup history, Cavs, they won the last 4 meetings, 2-1-1 against the spread. Depending on the Mitchell info, that's what this whole game is going to be revolved around. Tough to go against OKC. They're just covering darlings. They get it done. So lean initially. Cavs on a back-to-back would be OKC or nobody, but not nearly enough information on this game yet.
I'm expecting, look, I wrote that 10 o'clock this morning in my preview on my website, on our app. I write a preview for every game, and the preview today was I expect Mitchell to sit tonight. Tonight being the first half of a back-to-back against the worst team in the NBA. So I expect Mitchell to sit. If you guys watch the end of the Cavalier-Knick game, Mitchell goes in for that last layup, and then he's laying down on the court. It was his first game back after missing 3 prior games due to the groin injury. No way in the world is he playing tonight. So are they saving him for tomorrow? We'll see. If they lose tonight, maybe make him that more apt to play him tomorrow. If they win, maybe they feel they got one in their pocket. Why chance it? They've already beaten the Thunder earlier in the year, but that was at Cleveland without Mitchell in the lineup. This game, I guess, just can't make a line on unless we know. Plus, I want to know how tough a game did the Cavs play? Did they cruise the game? Did they get taken to overtime? Did they win by 1 million? So we got to see what happens in that game. But I can't make a call on Mitchell. What I do say is I could bet, I'd bet a lot of money that Mitchell does not play tonight, Thursday night, against the Rockets.
And we'll see what goes on with that game. How to Beat the Bookie members. You guys know you'll be updated later tonight on the Mitchell info. For those of you guys who haven't checked it out, make sure you go download the How to Beat the Bookie app. You get access to game previews like John mentioned, but also just injury updates to stay in the know. We have one more game on Friday, Raptors and Warriors. Raptors coming off a nice, impressive win over Sacramento. That was one of the winning bets How to Beat the Bookie team had yesterday. And then you have Golden State coming off a tough little win. Curry gets ejected in the last minute. Jordan Poole hits a game-winning layup with 1 second left on the clock. Golden State, weird. They started off this season winning, covering nonstop at home. They had the 4-game home losing streak. They win yesterday, still no cover. They haven't covered in 5 straight home games. And you have Andrew Wiggins questionable heading into this matchup. You did have the Warriors with a win at Toronto earlier this year, so maybe a little bit of a home revenge there for the Raptors. To me, would be a slightest of leans to Toronto, but Golden State's just been difficult to read lately. John, I know you've been feeling that.
Impossible to read for me. That's what kept me off that Golden State-Memphis game last night. My lean is to the Raptors here, just like you said. There's a little bit of home revenge here. Golden State gave it to the Raptors in Toronto earlier in the season. I was on the Raptors last night, as you mentioned, at Sacramento. Toronto finally looks like they're putting it together. When I look at their lineup, Van Vliet, Trent, Siakam, Anunoby, Bonds, that's a nice starting 5. Nurse puts them guys out there. He ain't scared to run guys out there 38 minutes plus. Yep. So that's a nice starting lineup. They got a couple of pieces off the bench. They're finally healthy. Van Vliet's in. He's out. He's starting to play better basketball. You know what you get with Siakam. So just as in last night's game at Sacramento had a 1-point victory at Toronto earlier in the year. And as I said in the preview, look at them in the standings last night going into the game. Sacramento was in 3 spot. So they were in a comfortable spot. Toronto, outside of the top 10. They need W's to get into that play-in. Starting to get to that time of year. Guys are starting to look at the standings. And that's, look, guys, the way I've bet the NBA my whole life is it's the one sport they don't get up to play every game. Now, we talk about football games, they're getting up for a game, but you got to get up to a certain extent. No. There'll be a letdown game every once in a while. We've seen it with the Vikings after that a miracle comeback against the Colts. It was a total fall flat the next week. NBA is a lot more than that. It's these guys I just got the word that Mitchell's out tonight, as we were saying. These guys take off a lot more games. So is this a game that Golden State's going to take off? Coming off the tough Memphis game, somewhat like I said, the Sacramento got one up in Toronto. Is it Toronto's turn to go out to Sacramento? That's how I felt yesterday. They needed the game more, being, I believe, in 12th place, whatever it was outside the top 10. Kind of the same thing here. Golden State owes them. Toronto owes the Warriors one. A little home revenge. Golden State coming off a tough. I mean, that's a tough game. There was a playoff atmosphere against the team they beat in the playoffs, against a team that they think they're going to have to go through again if they want to go back to the championship. So maybe a little bit of a letdown game. Toronto plus the points or no one. Depends on the number right now. A lot of the spots don't have all the lines up, so that's why we're kind of guesstimating numbers at this point.
Yep, guesstimating is what you got to do at this time, and we'll see what those lines come out to. Guys, there's a lot of NBA action, of course, going on this Saturday. A lot of fun matchups on Saturday. I like the NBA schedule. We're going to have Lakers, Celtics, Knicks, Nets, little New York matchup, Nuggets, Sixers, Jokic, and Embiid. If you guys want game breakdowns for all of these, make sure you become How to Beat the Bookie members. You can go sign up on the website, or you can sign up on the app in the App Store or Google Play.
Just 1 second, Ben. You left out the Piston-Rocket matchup on Saturday. Also, that's when they're fighting for the worst team in the NBA.
Yep. We'll see who can blow a lead worse, I suppose, in that one. Before we sign off, John, we got by the way, guys, make sure you guys are commenting, Instagram, YouTube. You can even drop questions on Spotify. If you guys want us to cover a topic, answer any questions, comment those away. We only had one after this first episode, and this was from our man, A. Mills. Shout out to him. He used to always turn into the Instagram lives as well. Question was about money management, and then he wanted to know some sites we use. So just mentioned the best site you can use, How to Beat the Bookie. Make sure you guys go check that out. If you guys want a couple of free sites, go check out teamrankings.com. Pretty good. Gives you a list of stats. That's where I got some of those Indiana Pacers first quarter trends I just gave you. You can get that on teamrankings.com. StatMe is another good one. But, John, I'll let you touch in and wrap us up a little bit here about money management, because obviously you've been successful in this for 40 years, and that's not going to happen without discipline. And in betting, the most important thing is money management.
And it absolutely is. Now, look, same thing if you're shooting dice. If you're sitting at the dice table and you go on a roll, okay, you're pressing when you're winning. If you're losing, 7 out, number 7 out, number 7, you're not doubling up to get even. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that a loser bettor will make. I've got to win. No, you don't got to win anything. When it's like a hitter. You get red hot, sometimes you get ice cold. When I feel red hot, when I'm reading for a particular game, the game sometimes literally jumps off the page. And that's when I'll call that a love bet, when I just love that bet. Like I say, I feel like a hitter. When you're red hot, you can see the laces on the ball. And you see that if I see that hand coming like this, I know it's curveball. His hand's on the side of the ball, it's curveball. And I can read the rotation. His hands behind the ball, fastball. So reading the rotation, that's how I'm doing when I'm reading the games. Sometimes I get into that groove and I just feel it. That's when things are going good. Things haven't been going good. A little bit more of a struggle. Put in a little more detail. But I don't make any excuses. I would bet the Rockets plus 3.5 if the same two teams played again today. We're going to bet with an edge. What I see with my experience, maybe not all you guys see, and you may disagree. And everybody has an opinion. Like I say, only 2 teams play. This isn't a horse race where there's 8, 10 horses running in a race. There's 2 teams. Oh, one of our opinions is going to be right. Doesn't mean yours is wrong. But you can't say I'm wrong for the wrong reason. As we discussed earlier, the public moving NBA games, all silly nonsense. There's, when guys accuse me of, did you know about the Ingram injury? Like, Ingram's been out a month. What are you talking about? If I'm a pro, I know every single injury. We know the injuries before they're going to happen. We know them what to expect the day before. We know Al Horford in the preview that we wrote the day for the Miami Heat game. Guys, remember, Ben starts the previews the night before. I finish them the day of. And I'm talking the day of While I'm up at 6:15, 6:30 a.m. Eastern, drinking my coffee, I'm typing away on the previews. So at that time, I'm already telling you, I expect Robert Williams, who sat the night before, to play while they'll rest Al Horford because he doesn't play in back-to-backs. So we're already assuming a lot of the injuries. Some of them we're not getting. Some of them happened just at game time. What was the one last night was Wiggins. He was very late. That Wiggins was illness. Now, guy can get ill. They hold it back because they don't know, and then they throw it out there. But we're on top of every single issue that there possibly could be. We look at every angle. We look at the next couple of games in the schedule, the games that they're just coming off the schedule, how the teams have met before. Is there any animosity between teams? If you guys just saw this past week, Memphis goes into L.A. L.A.'s got them beaten down. Shannon Sharp gets into a little thing with a couple of the Grizzlies players. That distracted Memphis enough for Lakers to come back and steal a win. We circled that game. We'll be looking for that in the next game, next time those two teams meet. These are the things that we cover. We don't miss an angle. That's what over 40 years in the business will do, okay? I don't leave any stone unturned.
Yup, and back to the A. Mills question about money management. Like John said, it has been a bit of a colder streak, but I think the most important thing is sticking to a system. Sure, maybe you have a different system. There's a bunch of different betting systems you can have to be profitable. But if once you start losing, you break away from the system, you're trying new things, that's when you're going to go down a rabbit hole. So find a system, stick to that system, and that's going to happen pan out during these cold streaks.
Look, I go with 3 and 5% of your bankroll, and your bankroll changes every week. If my bankroll, we're going to make this simple. It's not my bankroll, but let's just say my bankroll is $1,000. So that means I'm going to bet $30 on a game that I like, $50 on a game that I love. If I double that bankroll a couple of weeks into the season, well, now I'm betting $60 on a game I like, $100 on a game I love. For the same token, if my bankroll has decreased, well, my like and love bets are now decreased also. It's all according to your bankroll. I laugh when I see some of these guys with their up 800 units for the week. You can't win 800 units. Stop it. Anybody out there, look, guys, anybody out there, first of all, telling you that over a long enough period of time, they're hitting over 60%, you're a sucker if you believe them. It's not possible. It's not possible. You can hit 75%, 80% for a week, for 10 days, for 2 weeks. You cannot sustain that over a season. If you believe it, you're a sucker. You know, they always say in a card game, if you sit down at a table and you don't know who the mark is, you're the mark.
Yep.
I mean, it's just that simple. But we're going to lose 40% of our games. What we're going to do, going to give you the best information. And that's what I do every day. Look, even games that I don't bet, we're writing a preview to give you some insight on the game. Again, I just had some clown DM me that he used to think I was the sharpest guy, and now he thinks I'm the squarest guy. I guess that was because I bet the Rockets last night, and tonight I'm betting against so I bet the Rockets, the worst team in the NBA, and tonight I'm betting against the best team in the NBA, taking the Celtics, taking the Knicks +9. Guys, it's all about the number. Going into yesterday's game, while the Rockets did have the worst record in the NBA, they were 11, 10, and 1 against the spread at home. And that's what I was looking to beat, 11, 10, and 1. Wizards were coming off a back-to-back. They were shorthanded. They just traded Hachimura. Porzingis is out. And they were going to be without their starting point guard, Morris. I could be wrong, but I always have a reason that I bet a game. These are some of the reasons.
And that's the main thing, guys. Having a reason, having a system, it'll take you far as management. It's going to kind of wrap things up here. So second episode of the Cash It podcast. Make sure you guys are following those handles below me here on Instagram, How to Beat the Bookie and Cash It Pod. Make sure you guys are following on YouTube and Spotify. Keep up with all the content on Instagram and TikTok. You guys will be getting free bets throughout the week. John, do you have anything else to wrap up here the second episode?
That's it. Hope you guys tune in. Like I said, I'm going to each time we have an episode, I'll give you a little story here and there. about my knowledge of this business, how deep, how entailed it is. Like I said, do not confuse age with experience. The experience is here, and that's why I'm trying to share it with you guys.
Absolutely not. And make sure you guys tune in to the next episode. And hey, let's make some money, John.
Let's make some money.